FEZ is worthy of a lot of things. It's worth studying, it's worth appreciating, but most of all, it's worth playing. If there's only a single thing you can take away from this video, I hope it's this. This game is a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you deserve to have for yourself. I've never played a game that captures my imagination as an adult like FEZ has. I see shapes spinning in my head at night, puzzles that haven't been solved, a beautiful world that I still want to explore more. This video is going to contain spoilers in every section, and I implore you to please play the game prior to watching onward. But if you don't want to, I hope that I can convince you to change your mind. FEZ is a journey, and I'm going to walk you through my experience in it to show you why it's special. So let's begin at the beginning. I start off in a small room. There's a little white blob on the bed, and he wakes up. I'm given control over this character. I exit the room and I see an old man place a canister in a container. The camera follows the container to the outside of a door, seeing the entirety of a town. I leave the room and, by reading the canister's message, learn that I'm controlling someone named Gomez. He's got to get to the top of this tower and talk to that old man. So I start to climb. I feel the weight of Gomez's controls, how his jump works, and how quickly he responds to my inputs. And it feels amazing. This isn't Mario. There's fall damage here. You can't clear gaps without intent and skill, and yet this game feels incredible to control. Each platforming challenge is a joy to get through. So I climb up this village, and I begin to talk to the old man. Then, something extraordinary happens. The cube speaks to Gomez, to the player, with utter nonsense, random audio cues, and seemingly meaningless symbols. What could any of this mean? Does it even mean anything at all? I have no clue. All the same, I received the titular FEZ, and the main mechanic of the game is now in my hands. I can rotate the world on a whim, and as I do so, the game seems to break. Glitches begin to form, numbers and characters reminiscent of an 80s arcade cabinet crashing. FEZ seems to crash, then reloads, returning to the title screen, with the player left with just one option. Press A to start. I'm treated to that same small room, with Gomez sleeping and waking up the exact same way. The only difference is that now he has the FEZ on. So I try out rotating, and my mind explodes. This entire room was only rendered in 2D, but it has 4 faces. I can explore all of them. I leave the room, and I see an incredible shot of the village in 3D, rotating around. Now, the game is mine to explore. I need to discuss the absolute brilliance of this opening sequence. In my mind, it's the greatest opening of any game, and I'm not trying to be dramatic here. It's so simple, yet so effective, allowing the player to explore this beautifully designed and crafted environment in 2D allows for a sense of comfort to build. Nearly everyone has played their fair share of 2D platformers, and FEZ looks like another extremely polished and character-filled chapter in the genre. Yet it flips your expectations on their head when you realize that this game is far more than what meets the eye. When I saw the world rotate in 3D, possibilities flooded my head. The view of the village in 3D is perfectly contrasted by the message being sent down in 2D. It creates and subverts expectations right then and there, like 10 minutes apart from each other. When I start exploring the village, the impact that rotating the world has is instantly recognizable. Chasms fade into nothing but flat land, while seemingly impossible platforming is made easy. The game doesn't need to teach me how any of this works. It doesn't need a convoluted tutorial sequence that lasts for 2 hours. No, it just clicks. I cannot emphasize enough just how good FEZ feels to control. As I jump around this town, I collect these little bits of cubes. I gotta get 8 of them in order to form a full cube and open the door below the town to God knows where. There are a bunch of these little cube bits in pretty open spaces, but something immediately stuck out to me. There are so many little rooms in this village, and they all seem a little bit off. Like, there's something more to them. The boiler room is covered in dense writing, symbols, and shapes all across the walls. Maybe there's more than meets the eye. I leave, and I finally finish the cube, and here's where I wanted to quick discuss this game's main character, Gomez. I love Gomez so much. He's a small white blob, and yet he's somehow got more charm than most characters from AAA games. He's just so expressive and emotive. His little beep grunts when he climbs, his animations of fear as he falls, the constant basic neutral expression he wears that just feels right. His idle animations are so full of personality. He'll fall asleep and snore, he'll toss his fez around, he just brims with character. And when he gets a cube, his smile is one of the most pure and joy-filled things I've seen in a video game. Look, I know this is small, but I think that this attention to detail and these tiny things barely anyone is even gonna think about is what makes this game so goddamn special. When I finally get this cube, I head out the door at the bottom and yet again am thrown for a loop. Where the hell am I? What are these weird doors? Why do I need so many cubes to open them? And I open my inventory, looking at a treasure map I got earlier. I realize I can rotate it, but one side is just blank. There's an empty spot for artifacts, and the map can be interacted with, but something feels off. Maybe there's more than meets the eye. I leave this chaotic place and find myself in one of my favorite places in any video game. The calm that washes over me in what I call the beach is so incredibly visceral. You feel it. The visuals, the music, it all adds together to create something special. FEZ invites exploration by creating a world you want to get lost in. It's comforting and calm, but at times a sense of unease can creep on you. Something's not quite right. This whole world was built by something, but all you have as a guide is a cryptic rotating rainbow shape named Dot guiding you. They just want you to collect the cubes. There's no one else here outside of your village, just animals and the sounds of the waves. What happened here? What are these same cryptic symbols from earlier doing spread about? And what's with these weird purple rooms with nothing but some blocks? Maybe there's more than meets the eye. I explore for a long while more, getting cubes and cube bits, finding weird new areas, but the village still sits in my mind. I'm looking at my map, and so many rooms have a secret still labeled within them. So I backtrack, and I find myself in the mayor's room. I keep staring at the painting on the wall. I mean, it's gotta mean something, right? I realize that regardless of the direction Gomez is standing in the photo, the FEZ is either on the left or the right of his head. So I try rotating the world in the order of the painting. Right, right, left, right, left, 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 right. Then, something extraordinary happens. What in the world just happened? Dot explains that I just got an anti-cube. There's one for each cube in the game, 32 in total. And my mind yet again explodes. So they're just puzzles hidden around randomly? Now, I get really curious. I was doubting if that painting was actually something, or if I was just crazy. But now I'm wondering whether everything in this game has something deeper. The cryptic symbols spread about might not just be flavor. Maybe they actually mean something. Maybe there's more than meets the eye. I keep exploring. I get more cubes, I find some more anti-cubes, but there's so much more I realize I don't know. There are these pillars I can't seem to figure out. There's a log cabin that leads to some cemetery dimension. There are so many incredible puzzles spread about, but I kept coming back to one place. This puzzle was the most satisfying journey I've ever had in a singular gaming experience. Let me take you through solving just one mystery in FEZ that bled out from the game to the real world. There's an area that connects to the hub of the beach area, a waterfall. As I look on the map, it's clear there's a couple of inaccessible rooms that are directly connected to the waterfall, but how? And what's up with this cryptic pillar that has a whole new set of symbols? Maybe there's more than meets the eye. One room in particular keeps me coming back. At the top of the waterfall, there's a tree, and within this tree is the most important room in the game, though I didn't know that at the time. I find my first artifact here, a writing cube. It doesn't seem to do anything at first glance. I thought these might be power-ups or something, but no. I can rotate it around, and that's about it. But something about this cube looks familiar. Then I look to the right, and it becomes obvious. The cube symbols are the same as the ones in the pillars. That's all I have to go off of, but immediately I start writing down each symbol I see in a notebook. The writing artifact's in this room for a reason, and I've got to figure out why. I think that maybe the P-looking symbol is the key to figuring all this out. Maybe that's the real letter P. And by referring to the writing cube, I can rotate every other solution and translate them. Needless to say, I realized pretty quickly that's not the right solution. I keep trying out so many weird and outlandish ideas, I feel like I'm going crazy. I consider if maybe each line length in the symbols is actually some sort of Morse code, with like the long lines representing dashes and the short lines representing dots, but that'd mean that the rotation of the symbols doesn't matter when obviously they do. I mean, they're rotated differently on that statue right there. So I wonder if maybe combining the symbols is the key. Horizontally or vertically making some English letters, but that was pretty obviously gibberish. I even start trying to brute force it, putting in words like and the that could easily slot into the 2 or 3 letter words, but none of it works. I feel like I'm throwing myself into a brick wall. Nothing I can do can help me figure this out. As I sit there dejected, I stare at the screen for a while, just thinking. That's when I notice something interesting. This entire time, a fox has been jumping over a dog. Look, I've seen animals throughout this game, but every time I see one, it's a caterpillar or an owl or a squirrel. This feels different. This feels important. Maybe there's more than meets the eye. Then, it clicks. There's a common pangram in the English language. That's a phrase that uses every letter of the language at least once. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The pieces all fit together in my head. This entire room is designed to get you to realize how this game's language works. I scramble to translate the language, but I can't seem to get the phrase onto the pillar. It just doesn't fit. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this isn't meant to be figured out yet. But instead of stopping, I push on. Quick is 5 letters long, and there's only 3 letters with space horizontally. Wait a minute. There are 5 letters going down on the right side of the stone. What if the language isn't read from left to right? What if it's read top to bottom, right to left? And then it clicks fully. The entire phrase fits perfectly. V and U and Q and X share the same symbols, but it all works. I go to another room with text and it translates perfectly. I can't believe it. I did it. Without a single cue, without a single hint or gesture or tutorial, the game pushes you towards the answer. Translating this language seems insanely daunting at the start of the game. Hell, I didn't even think this was a real language. I thought it was just some gibberish to add flavor to the world. But no, this language is real, and I figured it out, not because I'm smart or good at puzzles or what have you, but because FEZ is designed in such an incredibly genius way that it pushes players to the finish line while still making the player feel like it's their accomplishment and theirs alone. That aha moment that every puzzle game lives for has never been stronger for me than in that moment. FEZ could have easily included a translation book or ability somewhere in the game to remove the work from the player, to make it so you don't have to do anything special to understand this language. It could have cheaped out. Instead, FEZ gives you the tools at every turn to solve its puzzles. The player's job is to put those tools together. That's what makes FEZ such a different and special experience. This non-linear puzzle structure makes every puzzle in FEZ feel incredibly unique. The solutions are the player's own. Writing in my notebook possible solutions to random secrets across the game made it feel so much more of my own discovery when I figured stuff out, rather than the game just kind of handing me the answer on a silver platter. And this isn't the only time FEZ has these kinds of moments. The game uses the same kinds of incredibly intricate hints and tools to teach players the number systems and codes hidden throughout the game. So I decided to solve more puzzles and I try to beat the game. There are puzzles I still can't figure out. Hell, entire areas I haven't discovered I can tell on the map. I decide to go through a door that takes 32 cubes and witness something incredible. The fake or bad ending of FEZ is absolutely gorgeous, and I think you owe it to yourself to see it for yourself. After the credits roll, I see a new option that surprises me. New Game Plus? What, did they add a hard mode? I boot it up only to see that I'm in that same starting sequence again. I play through it again, waiting to get the FEZ. Then, something extraordinary happens. What in the world just happened? After this entire game teaches you that knowledge unlocks new abilities, rather than power-ups unlocking new abilities, FEZ decides to shock the player again by breaking the expectations that it itself set. This whole world is 3D, not just as like level design, but as an actual space you can explore. When you view these levels in 3D, in first-person mode, your mind is completely blown. You see platforms way off in the distance, areas on completely different planes, and they all seem to fit together perfectly in 2D. First-person mode completely changes the way you interact with once familiar areas, bringing new solutions and new secrets. So I use my new knowledge to explore every nook and cranny of the game, and I find that FEZ's gameplay variety is second to none. I showed you all of them, but you need to see some of these places for yourself. I'll show you one place though, one that encapsulates everything I love about FEZ's design. It's so natural, yet so unexpected. Hopping from platform to platform in time with the beat is challenging and exciting, and the ending of the level culminates perfectly. The music in FEZ is phenomenal. I've been listening to it non-stop since I finished the game, and this level using it in such a tactile way is such an incredible moment. Music in FEZ doesn't come to the forefront a lot. It isn't the thing you notice when you're trying to solve a puzzle or a hard platforming challenge, and yet I can't help but adore it. Disasterpiece's songs fit every area perfectly, and on their own are stunning in an already stunning game. Let me show you what I mean. There are some puzzles in FEZ that seem brutally difficult, but as you get further into the game and gain more knowledge, become cakewalks. And then there are the few that don't necessarily feel unfair, more so obtuse. Once I had the vast majority of the cubes and anti-cubes, I finally caved. I couldn't for the life of me figure out the clock puzzle. It felt like regardless of how much time passed, the white hand moved an arbitrary amount. So I looked online. And you know what? I didn't feel bad at all. This is an intended part of the game. Some of the puzzles are literally scanning QR codes. Using the internet is part of the design. I lasted longer than most, and now the game became a quest for me to 100% it. Turns out, the white hand only gives an anti-cube once a week. I don't feel bad about cheesing it. I just change my system clock, and I move on with my life. I collect the last few cubes that slipped out of my grasp until finally I get them all. There's a door that opens when you get all 64 cubes, 32 regular and 32 anti. So I go in, and I see one last head scratcher, an empty wireframe floating above a fountain. What in the world just happened? This is where heart cubes go. There are 3 in the game. 2 of them are obscenely hard to get, but the logic behind them at least makes some sense. I had to look up how to get these, but now retroactively knowing what the solutions are, the puzzles are really interesting to actually look at how people solved. But there's one more, One last heart cube that has stumped this decade-old games community since release, the Monolith. I got a map midway through the game that's half burned. It didn't seem to mean anything clear, but once I collected all the cubes, I realized it's gotta be in one of the only rooms left that still has a secret. So I go to one infamous room, and nothing's here. I enter first person, and lo and behold, I see the symbol on the map. I walk to the correct location, and I input the code I got from the back of the map. The world shakes. A black monolith appears. There's clearly another place to stand, the inverse of where I just had to stand for the first sequence, but there are no hints here. I've got to do something, enter some kind of code, but what? After bashing my head in for a while, I finally ask the internet for hints, and I find that this puzzle is just as confusing now as it was over 10 years ago. The only way the community found the solution was through pure brute force. Popular theories have appeared, but none of them fit just right. None explain how the player is actually supposed to find the monolith code. Maybe some mysteries are meant to be left just as that, mysteries. Or maybe there's something here that's been looked over. Something that doesn't fit quite right. Maybe there's more here than meets the eye. Maybe you'll be the one to find out what that thing is. I collect the heart cube and leave, defiant. I go back to the wireframe, this time finding a complete heart. These collectibles are here to be hard and aspirational. Their collection is their reward. I try to interact with them, but nothing happens. So I stand here for a while, satisfied, before exiting and seeing FEZ's true ending. You ever finish a game and just kind of sit there for a second, when you know what you just experienced was something special? I sat there, staring at the credits for a good 10 minutes. FEZ is an incredible game. It's special. It takes me back to when I was a little kid, thinking every game I played had these obscure secrets hidden in them that could unlock crazy stuff. Only FEZ's secrets aren't just rumors. They're real, and they're incredible. And that's on top of a gorgeous, lovingly crafted, polished to a T 2D platformer. You need to play this game. It isn't just good. It isn't just great. It's something you owe yourself to play. FEZ is worthy.